Hello, welcome to my channel. So today I read another Japanese folktale. So the title is 3年寝太郎 in Japanese, and English title is The 3-Year Sleeper. So it is interesting story. So let's get started. The 3-Year Sleeper, Part 1. The boy who slept for 3 years. Long, long ago, in a quiet village surrounded by soft green hills, there lived a young boy. The village was small. There were rice fields that shone under the sun. There were narrow paths where people walked slowly, carrying baskets and tools. And in the early morning, you could hear the gentle sound of birds singing in the trees. In this peaceful place, everyone worked hard. Everyone except one boy. The boy's name was not important anymore. People simply called him Netaro, which means the one who sleeps. And he truly loved to sleep. From morning until night, from night until morning, he slept. When the sun rose, warm light would quietly enter his small room. But Netaro did not wake up. When the villagers began their work in the fields, their voices soft and steady, Netaro did not move. Even when the sky turned orange in the evening and the cool wind began to blow, he remained asleep. Days passed, then weeks, then months, and slowly people began to whisper, "Why does he sleep so much? Is he sick? Or is he just lazy?" Some people shook their heads. "He will never become anything," they said quietly. Netaro's parents were worried. His mother would sit beside him and gently touch his hair. "Please wake up," she would say softly. "The day is so beautiful." But Netaro only turned slightly in his sleep. His breathing was calm. His face was peaceful. His father tried a different way. "Get up," he said one morning, a little louder than before. "You must help us. Everyone is working." But still, Netaro did not wake. Time continued to flow like a slow river. Spring passed into summer, summer passed into autumn. Leaves turned golden and fell softly to the ground. And still Netaro slept. The villagers began to laugh quietly. 3 days, I understand," one man said. "But 3 months? That is too much." "Yes," another replied. "He will sleep his whole life away." The seasons changed once more. Winter came. Snow fell gently, covering the village in a soft white blanket. Inside the small house, Netaro lay under thick blankets, warm, still, sleeping. His mother watched him with teared eyes. It has been almost 3 years, she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost like the falling snow. 3 years, 3 long years of sleep. And then, one quiet morning, something changed. The air felt different. The sunlight seemed a little brighter as it slipped into the room. Netaro's fingers moved slightly. Just a small movement. So small that no one noticed at first. But slowly, very slowly, his eyes began to open. He blinked once, then again, as if waking from a very deep dream. He sat up gently. His movements were slow, like someone who had traveled a long way. His mother, who had been sitting nearby, froze in surprise. She looked at him. Her eyes grew wide. Netaro, she whispered. Netaro looked around the room. Everything felt quiet. Everything felt new. I'm awake, he said softly. His voice was calm, as if nothing unusual had happened. His mother's eyes filled with tears. You've been sleeping for 3 years, she said. Netaro blinked slowly. 3 years? He repeated. He stood up carefully. His body was a little weak, but his expression was peaceful. Yes, he said after a moment. I think I needed that time. His mother did not understand, but she was simply happy. Happy that her son was finally awake. Outside, the snow had begun to melt. The first signs of spring were quietly returning, and with them, something new was about to begin. Part 2. A quiet plan beneath the sky. The snow slowly melted. Small drops of water fell from the rooftops one by one. The sound was soft and steady, like a quiet rhythm. Spring was returning. The fields, once white and still, began to show hints of green. Tiny plants pushed their way through the soil, reaching for the light. And in the village, people moved again with gentle energy. They worked in the fields. They repaired their homes. They spoke in low, calm voices as they passed each other on the narrow path. was one thing everyone was talking about. Netaro. The boy woke up, someone said. After 3 whole years. I saw him this morning, another replied. He looked different. Not stronger, not louder, just different. Netaro did not rush. He did not speak much. He simply walked slowly through the village, looking at everything as if he were seeing it for the first time. He watched the water flowing in the small streams. He listened to the wind moving through the trees. He stood quietly, feeling the warmth of the sun on his skin. Sometimes he smiled softly. Other times he said nothing at all. People did not know what to think. Is he really alright? One woman asked. He still seemed strange. But Netaro did not mind their words. One day he walked beyond the village, past the rice fields, past the small wooden bridge, up toward the gentle hills that surrounded the land. At the top of one hill he stopped. He looked down at the village. The houses were small, the fields were wide, and far in the distance there was a river. But the river was thin, too thin. Netaro narrowed his eyes slightly. The water, he whispered. The wind brushed softly past him. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if remembering something. Then he turned and walked back down the hill. That evening, he spoke to his parents. I want to help the village, he said quietly. His father looked surprised. You? He asked. You have just woken up. Netaro nodded slowly. I know, he said. But I have something I want to try. His mother looked at him gently. What is it? She asked. Netaro sat down. The river is too small, he said. There is not enough water for the fields. His father frowned slightly. That is true, he said, but it has always been that way. Netaro shook his head softly. It doesn't have to stay that way. The room became quiet. A small wind moved outside, brushing against the walls of the house. What are you thinking? His mother asked. Netaro looked down for a moment. Then he raised his eyes. I want to bring more water to the village, he said. His father crossed his arms. That is not an easy thing, he replied. Many people have tried before. I know, Netaro said. His voice was calm. I thought about it for a long time. His parents exchanged a quiet look. They did not fully understand, but something in Netaro's voice felt steady. No rushed, no careless, just certain. The next day, Netaro went to the village square. The villagers gathered slowly. Some came out of curiosity. Others came because they had heard whispers. The sleeping boy has something to say. Netaro stood quietly in front of them. The wind moved gently through his hair. I want to help bring more water to our fields, he said. A few people laughed softly. You just woke up, one man said. And now you want to change the river? Another shook his head. This is not a dream, he added. Netaro listened. He did not become angry. He did not argue. He simply nodded. I understand, he said. Then he continued. There is a way, he said softly. But I will need everyone's help. The villagers grew quiet. His voice was not loud, but it was clear. What kind of way? An old man asked. Netaro looked toward the hills. We can guide the water, he said, from the larger river beyond the hill. Some people gasped quietly. That is far, someone said. Yes, Netaro replied, but not impossible. The wind passed through the group. It carried a feeling, something small but real. Hope. If we work together, Netaro continued, we can create a path for the water. The villagers looked at each other. Slowly, carefully. And then the old man stepped forward. If there is even a small chance, he said, we should try. One by one, others nodded. Not everyone believed, but many were willing to listen. And that was enough. Netaro bowed his head slightly. Thank you, he said. That evening, under the soft light of the setting sun, a quiet plan began to take shape. And the boy who had slept for 3 years was finally beginning to show why. Part 3. The flow of quiet effort. The next morning arrived softly. A pale light spread across the sky, and a cool breeze moved through the village. People woke earlier than usual. There was a feeling in the air. Something new, something quietly exciting. Netaro stood at the edge of the village. He looked toward the hills again. The path ahead was long. The work would not be easy, but his face remained calm. Villagers began to gather around him. Some carried simple tools, wooden shovels, small baskets, ropes and cloths. No one spoke loudly. Their voices were soft, like the morning wind. "Where do we begin?" a young man asked. Netaro pointed gently toward the hill. "We start there," he said. And so they walked. Step by step, they moved together along the narrow path. The earth beneath their feet was still a little cold from winter. Birds sang quietly above them. The sound followed them as they climbed. When they reached the hill, Netaro stopped. He looked across the land carefully. His eyes moved slowly from the distant river to the slope of the hill, down toward the village fields. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if listening to something deeper than sound. Then he opened them again. "We will dig here," he said softly. The villagers looked at the ground. It did not look special. It was just earth, just grass. But they trusted him, at least a little. And so they began. The first movement was slow. A shovel touched the ground. Soft soil gave way. Then another, and another. The sound of digging filled the quiet air. It was not loud, just steady, a rhythm. The sun slowly climbed higher. Its warmth touched their backs. Sweat formed on their skin. But no one stopped. Netaro walked with them. He did not stand apart. He did not give orders loudly. He simply moved, digging, carrying, shaping the earth. His movements were calm and careful, as if he had done this many times before. "Why are you so sure?" one woman asked him gently. Netaro paused for a moment. He looked at the soil in his hands. "I listened," he said. The woman tilted her head slightly. "To what?" she asked. Netaro smiled just a little. "To the land," he replied. The woman did not fully understand, but she felt something in his words. Something quiet, something steady. Days passed. The work continued. Morning to evening, step by step. The path in the earth began to take shape. A long, narrow channel stretched across the hill. It curved gently like a soft line drawn by hand. Some days were warm. The sunlight wrapped around them like a blanket. Other days were cloudy. A soft grey sky hung above them. But still they worked. At night, the village was quiet. People rested their tired bodies. But there was a gentle feeling in their hearts. They were doing something together, something meaningful. And Netaro, sometimes in the quiet of the night, he would walk alone up to the hill. He would stand beside the unfinished path. The moonlight would fall softly around him. The wind would move through the grass. He would close his eyes again, listening, always listening. One evening, his father approached him. "You work very hard now," his father said quietly. Netaro turned. "Yes," he replied. His father looked at the long channel. "It is hard to believe," he said slowly, "that this is the same boy who slept for 3 years. Netaro lowered his eyes slightly. "I was not doing nothing," he said. His father frowned gently. "What do you mean?" he asked. Netaro took a slow breath. "I was thinking," he said. "Thinking?" his father repeated. Netaro nodded. For a long time, he continued. "I listened to the wind, to the water, to the land." His voice was soft. I could feel where the water wanted to go. His father stood in silence. The night air was cool and calm. "I see," he said at last. He did not fully understand, but he no longer doubted. The days grew longer. The work moved closer to the distant river. The channel was almost complete. Only one final part remained. A small section of earth that separated the new path from the flowing water. The villagers stood together. They looked at it quietly. "This is it," someone whispered. Netaro stepped forward. The wind moved gently around him. "If we open this," he said softly, "the water will come." No one spoke. There was a small feeling of fear and a quiet hope. Netaro picked up his shovel. He pressed it into the earth. Slowly, carefully, the soil began to break. Others joined him. One by one, the sound returned. Soft, steady, and then a small trickle of water appeared. Just a thin line at first. It moved gently through the opening. The villagers held their breath. The water grew stronger. It flowed into the channel, down the path they had created, over the earth they had shaped together. It moved slowly at first, then more steadily, like a quiet voice becoming clear. The villagers watched in silence. Some smiled softly. Some wiped tears from their eyes. "It's coming," someone whispered. "Yes," another replied. "It's really coming." The water continued its gentle journey down the hill, towards the fields, towards the village. And in that quiet moment, everything began to change. Part 4. The quiet gift that remained. The water flowed slowly down the hill. It followed the path the villagers had made together. Carefully, gently, like a soft song. The villagers walked beside it. No one rushed. They simply watched. Step by step, the water moved closer to the fields. The sunlight touched its surface. It shimmered quietly like small pieces of light dancing together. When it finally reached the first rice field, the water spread softly across the dry soil. The earth seemed to breathe again. Dark, rich soil drank the water. A gentle scent rose into the air. Fresh, alive. The villagers stood in silence. Some placed their hands together quietly. Some closed their eyes. "It's beautiful," a woman whispered. "Yes," an old man said softly. "It has been a long time since we've seen this." The water continued to flow from one field to another, from one small path to the next, until the entire village was touched by it. That evening, the sky turned a soft orange. The sun slowly disappeared behind the hills. The fields reflected the warm light, and the water moved quietly without stopping. The village had changed. Not suddenly, not loudly, but deeply. Days passed. The rice began to grow. At first, small green shoots appeared. thin and delicate. They swayed gently in the breeze. Then, little by little, they grew taller, stronger. The fields turned into a sea of green. Soft waves moved across them when the wind passed. The villagers smiled more often now. Their voices felt lighter. Their steps felt easier. And wherever they went, they could hear the quiet sound of water flowing. Netaro did not speak much. He returned to simple life, helping in small ways, walking through the village, looking at the fields. Sometimes he would sit quietly near the water, listening, always listening. One day, a young child came to him. "Why did you sleep for so long time?" the child asked. Netaro looked at the child. His eyes were gentle. "I needed time," he said softly. "For what?" the child asked. Netaro turned his gaze toward the flowing water. "To understand," he replied. The child tilted their head slightly. "Understand what?" they asked. Netaro smiled just a little. "How things move," he said. "How things grow." The child looked toward the fields. The wind passed softly through the rice. The water continued its quiet journey. "I think I understand a little," the child said. Netaro nodded. "That is enough," he replied gently. Seasons passed again. Spring turned into summer, summer into autumn. The rice turned golden, heavy and full. When the harvest came, the villagers gathered together. They worked side by side, laughing softly, sharing food, sharing time. It was a good year, a peaceful year, and at the center of it all was the quiet flow of water. One evening, after the harvest, the villagers held a small gathering. Lanterns were lit. Soft light filled the night. People sat together, talking, smiling, remembering. The old man stood up slowly. He looked around at everyone. Then he spoke. "We once laughed at a boy," he said quietly. The village grew still. "We thought he was doing nothing. His voice was calm. But he was listening in a way we did not understand." He turned toward Netaro. "Because of him, our fields are alive," he said. "Because of him, we have water." Netaro lowered his eyes. He did not look proud. He did not look surprised. Just calm. The villagers bowed their heads gently. Thank you, they said. The wind moved softly through the night. The lantern light flickered. Netaro raised his head slightly. You all did the work, he said. His voice was quiet. I only showed a path. The old man smiled. And that is enough, he replied. The night continued peacefully. Laughter rose softly into the air. The stars shone above, clear and still. And the sound of water flowed gently through it all. Years passed. The story of Netaro spread slowly, from one village to another. People spoke of the boy who slept for 3 years, the boy who listened, the boy who brought water, and over time his name remained, not as a boy who slept, but as someone who understood. Even now, if you walk through a quiet village and you hear the soft sound of water flowing through the fields, you might remember him. A boy who rested, a boy who listened, a boy who changed everything. In the most gentle way, and the water still flows. Softly, calmly, without end. So, the story is finished. It's an interesting story, isn't it? So thank you for watching. Good night. Good night.